everyone, this is Lana Teramae from Metal Express Radio. Today I'll be speaking with Shawn Drover. You may know him for his work with Megadeth, Out to Defiance, and Eidolon. Shawn's here to talk about his new band, Withering Scorn, and their debut album, Prophets of Demise. Check it out. Okay, so first of all, Withering Scorn, tell me all about it and how it was founded.
Well, the band really started because of the pandemic. When all that happened, it really shut down the music industry for touring, of course. I mean, we were all just shut down. And this is what, March or April of 2019, I think it was, when that went down. My brother Glen owns a recording studio up in Canada. He's like, look, nobody can do anything in terms of playing shows. Why don't we start writing some music and see what happens, and maybe ask a couple of our friends. I said, oh, okay, so let's do that. And we asked our bass player friend, Joe Tobias, who was in a band called Fates Warning, played on all their classic records. He lives up in Connecticut. So he said, yeah, I'm totally into it. And so we said, okay, let's, we talked about what singer we wanted. And we both love Henning Bossi, who's over in Germany. He was in a band called Metallium. He did all those records and he was into it. So as time went on, we was like, maybe we should do a full-blown record and, and see where that leads us. And over the course of really 3 years on and off, because we all have families and other things that we have to do, it took us about 3 years to finish the record. And once that we finished in March, really took about 3 years. So March of 2023, to finish it. And, then we started shopping the record and almost right away, I think within 1 week or 10 days, Frontiers Records offered us a multi-record deal and they loved the record. So here we are, the record comes out July 7th, which is next Friday. And we're real excited about it.
Yeah, I listened to it like 5 times. I really like it.
Thank you. Thank
you. So how would you describe the new album?
Heavy metal. Right? Everybody wants to put everything in this little small subgenre box. Is it power, thrash, death, metal, all these kind of stupid boxes that right away I find very limiting, because if I said, okay, we're old school thrash, right away before anybody even hears a note, if you don't like old school thrash, you're going to go, oh man, those guys are going to suck. I'm not even going to give them a chance. And a lot of people are like that. And for me personally, I like all kinds of music. But if I had to put a label, I really can't put any other label than heavy metal on this record, because every song is different. Some songs are faster. Some songs are more of a slower, dynamic kind of thing. Like, we have a couple of tunes on the record. The last song on the record is really like that. It's a longer tune. It's much more of a slower, real heavy kind of tune. And we have a melodic singer. So, that to me, going back to when I was growing up, you listen to Maiden, you listen to Judas Priest, you listen to Dio, you listen to Black Sabbath with Dio, all these bands, their records were heavy metal records. And of course they still are, but every song is a little bit different. They're not all the same. Some songs are fast, some songs are slow, some songs are middle of the road. Some songs have, acoustic guitars in them. So that's really how we were throwing down with this record, because we just love all kinds of different kinds of music anyway. So, but that's a long answer to your question. I consider it a heavy metal record.
Yeah, I like your idea of not really having a specific category, because I'm Judas Priest, they did a couple speed metal songs and they weren't really looked at like a speed metal band. They were just known as like a heavy metal band.
Right. Just because you write a speed metal song, or just because you write a slow doomy song, doesn't mean you're a doom band, or doesn't mean you're speed. Just that's the thing about metal that I love. It's like you can really expand the genre as far as you can push it. You know what I mean? Without pissing off your fans or alienating your fans. And I try to push that with, I stay within the parameters. I'm not going to put a country music song with a ukulele in it, because that's for another kind of music. But we always stay within those parameters. But like I said, we try to really mix it up and not have the same song all the time. Now, some bands do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with only having thrash songs or only having slow songs. That's great, and I love it. But for us, we try to mix it up and keep ourselves interested, because we, like I said, we love all kinds of different kinds of music. So why should I limit myself just because what somebody else thinks that we should be? We should be power metal, we should be thrash metal, or I don't care about those kind of labels at all. I do what I want musically, and if other people like it, that's icing on the cake.
I mean, heavy metal is heavy metal, so.
Sure. Yeah, that's how I look at it. And that's what it was when I was younger. I come from a time from the 70s and the 80s where, there were no thrash tunes on records, before Slayer and Metallica and all that stuff. So I mean, I'm going back to before that. If you're talking about, 1979, 1980, there were fast songs on records, certainly, but they weren't like full-blown speed metal stuff. They were just we just considered them fast tunes, and I loved it. But I like slower, heavier stuff too. So I still kind of throw down from that perspective. If I wanted to put two thrash metal songs on the next record, I have no problem doing it. Or if I want to put two really slow, friggin' just crushing slow stuff, I have no problem doing any of that. I don't have set any kind of parameters for what I do musically at all.
And you mentioned Eternal Screams. That's actually my favorite song on the album. So how did?
That's the last song, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. I literally just got the advanced CD. I literally just got it last night. So I listened. I went in my car last night, put the CD in my car, and that's the first time I listened to the record in since we mixed it back in March. So it's it was fresh again when I went and listened to it. But I'm telling you, my favorite song on that album is the last one. I love the fourth song, and I love them all. But if I had to pick one that was my absolute favorite, it would be Eternal Screams, which is the last song on the record. It's friggin' heavy.
Oh no way! That's so cool. We both like the same song.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So what? How did you come up with that song?
Again, just Glen actually wrote the beginning. No, he didn't write the beginning of that song. I'm trying to think now. Yeah, Glen wrote the beginning of that song. He wrote that clean. I'm trying to think now off the top of my head. Glen wrote the beginning clean part of that song, and we just kind of say, let's put some keyboards over that, some real like eerie kind of keyboards in the background, and we just kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together. We talked about okay, out of the clean guitar section, where do we want to go? Do we want it to be fast? Do we want it to be more of a slow? We said, let's do a real heavy, slower tune has nice dynamics in it. It's got that little nice piano part in the middle, all that stuff. So we really wanted to try to mix it up and have a bit of a longer song that had a lot of layers to it. You know what I mean? A lot of musical layers and stuff. And it has a little musical interlude in the middle of that song with no vocals, which is, kind of nice to do as well. Because that's the part's a little more progressive and stuff. So it's really a nice melting pot of different kinds of metal all thrown into one song. If you go back and listen to it, and that was done by design. We purposely said, okay, let's really mix this one up and have fun with it, and just try to make the song a real epic kind of tune, but really heavy, with dynamic, again, the clean intro and the piano part in the middle, and that's what we did, and I'm real proud of that one for sure.
Yeah, my description for it, I was looking at my notes. I called it like a musical journey because, like you said, there's so many parts to it. Like,
Yeah, that's a nice way to put it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it really is. And yeah, I love all the songs on the record. I really do. I mean, we have 8 songs on the record, and I love them all. But again, if I had to pick one, it would be the last song on the record. And so I'm proud of them all, but I'm especially proud of that one.
Pick Up the Pieces is another one of my favorite. What's the story about that song?
That one, that's a faster tune. There's really no special story to it. It's just again, all these songs are by design. Like, we don't just go and write a bunch of songs and then you find out, oh crap, we have 7 songs that sound the same and 1 song that sounds different. Now the record's gonna kind of get boring because it all, we really when we're writing the songs, like, I make sure that, are there too many songs that already sound like that? Oh, there are too many. Okay, I need to do something different. I think about all these things when I'm writing music, and so does Glen. So that's a real up-tempo one, which just kind of more of a straightforward song. It doesn't have doesn't have really any dynamics in it. It's just kind of punch you in the face kind of and that was done by design. And again, it's a nice contrast to Eternal Screams, right? So, you know, it's nice to have that yin and yang kind of. So, again, it's a nice balance for the record. I really tried to make the record kind of go like a roller coaster a little bit, right? You kind of start off, and you go and start off fast, and then it slows down a little bit, and I try to think along those terms musically. So again, so I don't get too bored, but I also don't want the listener who potentially could like the band. I don't want them to say, "Oh God, all these songs sound the same. It's friggin' boring," or couldn't they mix it up a little bit? Or I think about all these things when I'm writing, which I think is a good thing. Certainly for what we do. Again, mixing it up and liking all kinds of different elements of metal and different styles of metal. That's important to me, not to be too samey and not have too many songs that sound the same. So that one, again, they're all done by design. That was done specifically to be a real up-tempo, in your face, let's go from start to finish. That song is just punch you in the face, and that's what that's about.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I like how there's a lot of variety on this album. So, like you
Yes.
said, you're not all like people aren't like saying, "Oh, all they do is the same thing," like that sort of thing.
And look, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, look, AC/DC. I mean, some people say they've written the same record, 17 times or whatever. I don't agree with that because I can differentiate right away, but it always sounds like AC/DC, and that's a great thing. As soon as you hear a song on the radio, that's AC/DC. You can hear from how Angus's guitar sounds, Angus and Malcolm. You can hear from as soon as Bon Scott starts singing or Brian Johnson. To Phil's drum beats are very simple beats, but they're super effective. So there's nothing wrong with doing that. But then you have other bands, Led Zeppelin, they're all over the place, which I love that. So again, I love elements of all those kinds of bands. I love bands that just go, this is what we do. Slayer, I love Slayer because, especially on the early records like Rain and Blood, it's start to finish, thrash, rip your head off thrash, and I love that, but then again, I like other stuff too. Like, Zeppelin's a great reference of they're all over the place. They have songs that are real hard rock. They have acoustic songs. They got epic songs. I mean, I love that stuff. So, so there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I speaking of Zeppelin, a few years ago I bought Led Zeppelin 3, and it took me like 3 years to get into that record. So now I can really appreciate the acoustic stuff and the fast stuff.
It's
And
a
like,
great record.
yeah,
That
yeah.
record, it's funny you said that. I've actually been listening to that record a lot recently too. I listened to that record when it came out in 1971. I think it came out. I wasn't listening to 71, but when I started to get into Zeppelin in the mid to late 70s, everybody overlooked that. Nobody ever said to. I've never heard one person say, "Man, Led Zeppelin 3 is like such a killer record." It's one of the. It's always Zeppelin 4, Zeppelin 1, Zeppelin 2. How's the Holy, and
Physical graffiti.
physical graffiti, right? Presence is overlooked. In Through the Outdoors is overlooked, and Zeppelin 3 is overlooked, in my opinion. But I think Led Zeppelin 3 is a fantastic record. But again, it's like we talked about a minute ago. It's like it's a real journey in terms, comes right out Immigrant Song, which is one of the heaviest songs they've ever written, if you ask me. That's a flat out metal song, if you ask me. I mean, if we played that record with today's production and how things sound now, that song would rip your face off, But then right after that, it just goes to nice acoustic pieces, and I just think that is a fantastic, way overlooked record, So I think about, like I said, I think about all those things when I'm trying to write music, especially now that I'm older and learned a couple of things along the way. It's like, just to try to have a nice balance of different styles, but still every song on our record is metal. There's no question about that, but it doesn't hurt to put some acoustic little things in there or some clean guitar stuff, that just adds dynamics to the songs. And when the heavy part kicks in, it sounds even heavier. That's what dynamics is used for in musical terms. So,
I mean, there's a lot going on in your song and on these songs specifically and I like that. So that way, like you said, you're not getting bored, and you're always hearing something new.
yeah, because again, I don't necessarily want the person listening to it to get it. Like you said, you bought Led Zeppelin 3 and it took you forever to really get it. And I think that's a good thing because, that just means that record has more depth to it. When I got Operation Mindcrime back in '88, I was a big Queensryche fan, still a big Queensryche fan. Man, that record, man, it took me a bit to get to it. It's like some songs I got right away, but others I'm like, man, what is going on? It's wacky and all that. And when I finally got it, it's like, man, I think it's the most perfect concept metal record to ever exist on planet Earth. In my opinion, it's just the perfect, you know, uh, record in those terms from start to finish for me. So it's like, but it took me a while to get it. Some certain, Operation Mindcrime, the title track, and certain other songs, I got right away. But all the segues and all that stuff, I mean, it's like listening to Pink Floyd The Wall. I mean, that record takes a little bit to get it, but once you get it, that's, to me, is part of the awesomeness of those records that have a little more depth to them. It's like, again, some records you should get right away, those more straightforward stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. Like I said, I love it, but I try to have a little more depth to certain things that we do, certainly. And the fact that you even acknowledge that means I'm doing something right. So I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, of course. You mentioned that you wrote songs.
Yeah,
And Glen writes some of the pieces as well. Is that like you said that's by design? Is it like planned that you?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. And I'll tell you why. Again, in '94, Glenn bought a recording studio, pieces to recording studio, which he over the years kept building and building and building to where now he has a full blast recording studio. So Glenn does all of the engineering on the record. He produces the record, he mixes the record, he masters the record, unless we get someone else to master it. So that's an incredible amount of work to get, tracks from everybody else and, assemble it up to Pro Tools and all this stuff. So anyway, we made a decision years ago, like, I said, look, you're doing all this work. Let me write the bulk of the music, because I'm more inclined in terms of being a songwriter. I just don't think Glenn has as much time as I do to write songs, because he doesn't. He's constantly doing stuff in the studio when we're writing and recording stuff. So I said, look, let me help. I'll write the bulk of the material. I'll write the lyrics and the melodies. I did that with a lot of the records I did in the past, and so we made that agreement a long time ago. And like I said, he always contributes to record. He's wrote songs, parts to the songs on Eternal Screams, the fourth song on the record. I can't remember the name of the name of that. What's the fourth song? I can't remember the name of it.
Ancient Desire.
Yeah, yeah. So he wrote that whole first section of that song. He wrote all of that. It's a real kind of it's got an off time signature to it. It's a real jazzy kind of metal kind of weird thing. He wrote all that. So, and he always, with the songs that I write, that we write, and give him the ideas, he always changes little things and makes it his own, but the core of the riffs are mostly mine for most of the songs. But again, that's by design, because I want to help share with the workload, and like I said, I'm a little more inclined than Glenn is to be a songwriter, but I think, like I said, it's because of I have more of the affordability of time, where he is constantly working in the studio anyway. So I mean, how is he going to write songs, record, do all this stuff, and I'm just sitting here twirling my thumbs and just playing drums? So because I'm a guitar player too, I've been playing since I was 14 or 15. I've been writing songs since I was in my late teens. So so we made that decision, and he obviously trusts me, knows that I can write good songs and that kind of thing. So we've been doing that since on and off since 1995. It's almost 30 years now that we've been doing this. Minus the time we were in Megadeth, and when Glenn played with King Diamond, and all that kind of stuff. We weren't obviously writing records then, but for the better part of almost 30 years now, this is what Glenn and I have been doing. So this is nothing new for us at all.
Yeah, I noticed that you and your brother seem to have a good partnership. So like you said, you both were in Megadeth and Eidolon together, and then you guys kind of did your own thing afterwards. So was it like nothing's really changed when you decided to work together again? So tell me more about that.
Yeah, honestly, not much. Look, the difference is now is we're older and wiser, and Glenn has better studio equipment. He has better knowledge of Pro Tools and all these new gadgets that come out. He's really on top of all that stuff. He's very good at all that stuff and getting great sounds. And, that takes a lot of work. You don't just hit the record button and record it. Okay, it's done. That's couldn't be further from the truth. With drums, you have to get all kinds of different EQs and different, all this kind of stuff in creating a really good drum sound. And that takes a lot of work. Same with bass, guitars, keyboards, vocals, any instrument you use. It takes time to get the sounds that you want. You just don't snap your fingers. It doesn't happen like that because we're doing it ourselves. We don't have another engineer, another producer. We're all in house. So Glen does all of that work. He has better knowledge of it now. I have better knowledge we both do, of all the things that we've been through, the bands we played in over the years. You learn a lot of things over time. So, and we've just applied that knowledge to what we're doing now, and hopefully still, really making better music than we ever have together. I think the music we're making now is just as good, if not better, than anything that we've done together. So that's a good thing at our age, to still be able to still have this. We have the same passion, even more so now, combined with the knowledge that we have. We're not just doing this because, oh, let's just put a metal record out and follow some trend and try to become popular or whatever. We don't care about any of that stuff. We're not doing this to be rock stars. We're doing this because we're musicians. We still love creating new music and, making sure that we love what we're doing. And then again, putting it out there and see what other people, the people who have followed us or like what we've done in the past, will hopefully like it as much now or even more so. So, that's why we do it. We do it for the same reasons as we did back in the 90s when we were much younger, 30 years younger, which I think is a great thing, that we still have that desire and that hunger to let's make it better than we did last time. Let's make it sound better than we did last time, better songs, better melodies, everything. We're not just painting by numbers here. We're not just skating through it and we're really hardcore about making the best record that we can, that's I'm glad that we're still like that.
And the intentions are true, which I really like because I feel like music these days, not necessarily a lot of rock, but just music in general, it kind of seems to be a little stale these days. Like the intentions aren't true, and it's all about how many records you can sell and how commercial you can be, that sort of thing. Like I feel like that excite some of that excitement in music is not what it was back in the like 70s, 80s, and all that.
Well, I mean, of course, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that are samey, that sounds similar, and there's a lot of reasons for that, and that's not always the reason of the band. You get signed to a label, and say you're in a band that sells a lot of records, right? Whatever band that could be, you kind of get pressure from the record company in a lot of ways to say, hey, we had kind of a hit on that last record. Let's write more of those hits. So now you're almost, before you even start writing new music, it's like, oh man, if we don't get a friggin' hit like we did on that last record, we might be in trouble here. We might lose our fans. Or once you start getting popular and you're selling a lot of tickets to shows, and there's a pressure there. There's a self-imposed pressure within the band to want to stay at that level. You don't want to put a record out with a hit on it and the next record just nobody gets it, and they moved on to something else or whatever. The band's like, oh crap, now we're back to playing clubs, or the record company pressure. There's a lot of factors involved in that. For a band like us, since we're a new band, again, we're doing this. This is we wrote this record for ourselves, we never said, okay, let's write these kind of songs. So maybe the fans of that band who are really popular right now, maybe they'll like us. We don't care about any of that crap, because again, at our age, we're doing this for genuine reasons. And again, it's because we love the music we're making. We love making music, and all the other stuff is icing on the cake. If you like the record, or some other people like the record, that's great. And I'm super thankful about it. But if you didn't like the record, it's not going to change what I'm doing at all, because I'm not trying to be something that I'm not. I'm not trying to create music to cater to a large demographic of people. We're not doing that. Now, That's not a recipe for success necessarily, but we're not doing this to be successful. I'm not trying to sell more records than Def Leppard and, back in the 80s. We're not trying to do that because nobody buys records anymore. That's another important thing that we should talk about. It's like when I was young, everybody, if you wanted to hear the new Judas Priest record, you had to go buy it. End of story. And I wanted to buy it because I supported my bands that I love. I still do to this day. So I went out and bought the new Judas Priest record. I went out and bought the Maiden record and the Sabbath record. And because that's what you do, right? That's what we did. Then you went to the show, you bought the T-shirt. All that revenue is, going towards the record company and the band. So there's a lot of money being flown around there where everybody's happy, and then they can make more records and make more money. That's all gone now because with the advent of, the Napster shit that happened, and now with, Spotify and all these ways you can just listen to music for free, right? So these kids are like, why? First of all, where can I even find the CDs unless you go on Amazon or the mom and pop shops or somewhere online, or get it from the record company? It's like, I can just listen to it for free. Why should I even go buy it anyways? So now, this is a big problem in the music industry where it's selling less and less and less and less, except for the hardcore maniacs who go and buy the vinyl, which is why you're seeing all the bands that have 15 different versions of vinyl, the splatter vinyl, this vinyl, the gold vinyl, the red vinyl, it's to get fans to buy it. That generates income, right? Income for the record company and potential income for the artist. So aside from that, though, it's all gone now, unless you buy the CD or unless you buy the vinyl, or unless you actually buy it on Spotify or Amazon or whatever, the MP3s, which most people don't. Let's be honest, right? There's no sense candy coating this stuff. That the reality of it is most people don't buy the music anymore. So why should I go and try to make some kind of music that I'm being disingenuous about and don't believe in, when the chances are it's not going to sell anyway? I might as well do exactly what I want, which is exactly what we're doing. So we can't lose because we're starting at zero, and all we're trying to do is build our way up to the fans that love what we're doing. So it is what it is,
Yeah, and you mentioned streaming services and how they're affecting album sales these days. Do you feel like it's harder for a new band to get established these days, like compared to like even the '90s even?
Established in terms of what? Going on tour and having
Like
tour
just
support and
making
all?
a name for themselves.
Of course it's harder. Of course. And again, so many people say, well, you got to have more of a social media presence. Well, we all do that. Everybody and their grandmother has a Facebook page and a Instagram page and all this stuff. And look, it gets the word out. And if you can get followers, that's really great, But are those followers actually going out and buying the music, right? That's a real important point of what we're, talking about. Unless they buy the music, getting recognition is one thing. If a lot of people become aware of what you're doing, that's really great, right? But if it's just in passing and they're not supporting what you're doing, they're not taking stock in their bands, which that's commonplace now. A lot of these younger kids, this is how they were brought up. I'm not saying anything negative about it. It's just the reality of what it is now. You can listen to 30 bands today. I can go on Spotify or whatever and find 30 new bands today that I've never heard in my life, or 30 records that I've never even heard. But once I listen to it, am I going to go out and buy 30 CDs? Probably not from those bands, So you get the recognition, but at the end of the day, if they don't take stock in the band and go see your concert or buy your merch or buy your record, anybody can make a music now and put it out on YouTube. It doesn't mean you're a signed artist. You're not a signed artist. That's not to say that it's a bad thing, but it's not. We live in different times now. I'm telling you, you wish you grew up when I grew up. I'm sure you're younger than I am. When I grew up, everybody supported the scene. We all went to concerts. We went on our phones because we didn't have phones. Our source of entertainment, our primary source of entertainment was music. So you supported the bands. Again, I sound like a broken record here, but everything's changed now. Music now is secondary. It's almost background music to video games, right? In a way, it's not the same as what it was, and that's okay. So you try to adapt and overcome with these times, and you just try to do really you try to do the best you can, and just try to remain positive, and keep your eye on the prize. And again, for us, it's just creating. We have the affordability and the accessibility to write new music and record it, and release it. So that's a great thing for us. It's a huge advantage, but we don't have any preconceived notions of thinking we're going to be playing stadiums in 2 months. It's not happening, and that's not why we're doing it. We're doing it because we love the music at the end of the day.
Yeah, and just real quick, how much time do you have left? I have like two more questions.
Oh, I got as much time as you want.
Okay, perfect. So I was wondering, did you have any like leftover material from the recording sessions that you possibly would use for like a new album or another project in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have tons of. Here's how. I mean, this is in a nutshell. This is how we do what we do. I mean, I go up in my music room, and start goofing around on guitar. And if I come up with an idea with today's technology, I record it on my iPhone. I record video on my iPhone, so I see myself playing the riff. So if I would record it on audio and went back and listened to it in a month, I could go, well, how did I friggin' play that? I don't even remember doing it. So if I record video of myself, I can see what I'm doing. Oh yeah, okay, that's how I do it. And I send it to my brother so he can see what I'm doing. So I just assemble riffs and all kinds of riffs, to where we get to where I think, okay, I've got a ton of ideas here. Let me get with Glen, and he's got ideas that he's recorded. Let's start putting the pieces of the puzzle together. So we'll say, okay, let's do this kind of song, a real fast breakneck speed song. Okay, well, what kind of riffs do we have? So we start putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And a lot of times we'll have the core of a song. We may have to record, okay, we need to write one new part for this song. So, okay, so I'll do it or Glen will do it. And that's part of the fun. But yeah, we have lots of leftover stuff, and I have new stuff that I've already recorded for the next record. So once I try to get a head start and everything. So when it's time for me and Glen to get together and say, okay, we need to really start, I need to start getting stuff ready because I got to go record drums sometime in the near future. So we'll start putting all these songs together. But I'm way ahead of the game right now for the second record. So there's no shortage of guitar riffs at all. There's quite a lot already. So, and look, it's again, with the riffs that I do, sometimes it just doesn't fit into what we're doing. It doesn't mean it's bad. It just means, well, it doesn't fit into these songs. It's kind of not working. So okay, well, let's revisit it in a year when we're doing the next record. Maybe it can be used with something else. So most of the riffs that I write, at some point or another, they get used. If they're good, if I think they're good and Glen thinks they're good, they'll get used 9 times out of 10.
So I guess you are saying that there could be another Withering Scorn album in the future.
Absolutely. Unless nobody buys the record and the record company drops us, that's the only way we're not gonna. If the record company says, guys, it's not working out, and we didn't, whatever, for whatever reason, right? We didn't recoup our money, or whatever. We want to move on to something else. That's the only way. And then we would just, if that ever happened, which I don't think it will at all, because Frontiers has been a great label for us, and they totally believe in what we're doing. So which is great. But if worst case scenario, if something like that would happen, we would just go somewhere else, or worst case scenario, we could release the record, release it online, but our relationship with Frontiers, like I said, is very good, and they've been, great to us, and they really believe in what we're doing. So yeah, this is just the beginning. We're just getting started, believe me.
You heard it, people. Buy the record July 7th. And CD, right? It's not really
Yeah, it's on. Yeah, it's on CD. And in the physical products on CD, and of course you can buy it on all the platforms online and stuff. Buy music, support music by buying music. Very important, kids.
And it's not released on vinyl yet, I believe, right?
No, we're in a holding pattern for that, because again, we're a new band, And I understand that the position of the record companies, like, let's see how things go. If there's a demand for it, they can press vinyl at any time. But I think their standpoint was, well, look, we're not going to press 100,000 copies of vinyl and you only sell 2,000. That's not smart financially. So I think we're kind of in a holding pattern because, look, ultimately that's what we want. We're vinyl freaks. We're real old school, and we know that the ones who buy vinyl, they'll buy the splatter vinyl, they'll buy the green vinyl, and all that kind of stuff, because that's what that demographic of people do, because they're collectors and they're fans. So right now we're in a holding pattern. If I think the more records that we sell with the CDs and purchasing the record online and MP3s and stuff, they'll say, oh, hey, this record's doing really good. Let's do a limited pressing of vinyl and see how it goes. So we're in a holding pattern right now, but we're hopeful for the future with that.
Yep, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Um, before we go, is there anything else you'd like to add or plug in?
No, I mean, again, just I think we pretty much covered it. You know, just keep supporting real metal, and get out there and spread the word, and buy the music. I can't stress how important that is for a multitude of reasons. But for those who are buying it, a lot of people have already pre-ordered the record, which is the CD, which is great. We're real appreciative that a lot of people, you check your social media, and we're constantly putting the word out, buy the record, and a lot of people were responding, already pre-ordered it. I saw one post where somebody pre-ordered 4 copies. I mean, that's hardcore stuff. When I see things like that, that's I have faith in the metal humanity of there's still a sector of people out there who still really believe in supporting their band. So I'm grateful for that. So
Yeah, I mean, there's still plenty of us out there. So,
yeah,
yeah. And so, again, July 7th, Prophets of Demise. Get that album, people. So, again, Shawn, thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate this.
thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good one. All right.
You too. Yeah.
All right.
Bye.
Take care of yourself.
You too.
All right. Bye bye.